What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. Marvel Studios has made some changes to their Phase 6 slate. And while the entirety of Phase 6 is not revealed yet, it does look like Marvel Studios is making some moves. Although we didn't get a full reveal of Phase 6 at SDCC this year, we did get the announcement of Avengers 5 becoming Avengers Doomsday, and of course the big reveal that Robert Downey Jr. was returning to the MCU to play Doctor Doom. Big announcements, but no Phase 6 update. Some fans are looking at D23 to be the place where everything gets revealed, but we'll have to wait and see on that. In the meantime, Marvel has added movies to their release date, and some of them take place after Secret Wars, leading us to believe that Avengers Secret Wars is indeed going to be split into two parts. And to clarify, that is not Avengers Doomsday being part 1 and then Avengers Secret Wars being part 2. We are talking about getting Avengers Doomsday, then getting one movie that is Avengers Secret Wars part 1, then getting a completely separate movie that is Avengers Secret Wars part 2. And honestly, this would make sense considering what the Russo Brothers have said in the past about Avengers Secret Wars. To start off, they did say before that the only way they would really come back to Marvel was to direct Secret Wars, and that is exactly what they're coming back to do, plus Avengers Doomsday. But since even before Avengers Endgame, the two brothers have had a lot of thoughts on how to do Secret Wars. And since it is such a huge storyline and it does have two different runs, it would make sense that they would want to do so much that they would have to do it in a two-part movie. And essentially before Infinity War and Endgame were part 1 and part 2. Originally, Marvel Studios did plan on just calling it Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2, but then of course they went with Infinity War and Endgame. So it looks like they might be following that same path here with Secret Wars, giving it a part 1 and a part 2. So let's dive into their updated release schedule. For starters, the Thunderbolts, or Thunderbolts with the asterisk, is dated for May 2nd, 2025. Then we have the Fantastic Four First Steps. Its new official title is set for July 25th of 2025. And then we have an untitled Marvel project stated for February 13th of 2026. And then we have Avengers Doomsday stated for May 1st of 2026. So that is locked in. But then we have an untitled Marvel project that was actually removed from the schedule. This was previously dated for July 24th of 2026. This has been removed officially. But we do have an untitled Marvel movie stated for November 6th of 2026. And keep in mind, we are specifically talking about movies. We are not talking about shows here. Everything we go over are movie release dates. But we can probably expect 2 Disney Plus shows per year because it really does seem like what Disney's CEO Bob Iger said, going back to fewer projects during the year, is true. And what we're going to be getting is 3 movies, 2 Disney Plus shows a year is really what we are getting now. But then we jump forward to May 7th, 2027. We have Avengers Secret Wars. And then we have 2 movies on the schedule marked to come out after Secret Wars. The first untitled Marvel movie is dated for July 23rd, 2027, only 2 months after Avengers Secret Wars will release. Then the other untitled Marvel movie is dated for November 5th of 2027. So we have 4 untitled Marvel movies, but again, I believe we might know what these 2 films after Avengers Secret Wars Part 1 could be. Let's just address the final release date, which is November 5th of 2027, basically 6 months away from Avengers Secret Wars. We can assume that this date is Secret Wars Part 2 because it doesn't really make sense for the saga to end on anything besides Secret Wars. It just kind of seems like it would be pretty anticlimactic to have Avengers Secret Wars happen and then after do a movie like maybe an X-Men film, or maybe then do Doctor Strange 3 or another Fantastic Four film. That doesn't really make a lot of sense unless these movies are actually stated to start the new saga. But considering how close they are to each other, I doubt it. Avengers Secret Wars, which I'm going to assume is part 1, is on May 7th. And then 2 months later, we get another Marvel movie. And then 4 months later, we get yet another one. They're all way too close together to probably not be connected connected here. And yes, I do understand that Spider-Man Far From Home was technically the last film of the Infinity Saga, but I think a lot of people actually do kind of consider that more of a phase 4 thing. But since these movies are all so close together, it makes sense that they're all connected. And this is what everybody seems to be thinking right now, and this is what I believe as well. The last untitled project stated is Secret Wars Part 2. Not saying this is true, obviously, it's just speculation, but this makes the most sense. Secret Wars is one of the biggest Marvel stories ever. It would make sense that they would need 2 parts to tell the story. They needed 2 parts for Avengers Endgame, which is based off of the Infinity Gauntlet story from the comics. So it would make sense that they would need 2 parts for a story that is arguably bigger than the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. Plus, not to mention, it's 6 months after Secret Wars, so it makes perfect sense for a part 1 and a part 2. But the question is, what is that movie in between? Well, if Secret Wars Part 1 ends with the destruction of the multiverse and a lot of different heroes ending up all at the same place for the very first time, stuck together perhaps on Battleworld or The Void as I've been predicting, well, that could be your Avengers vs. X-Men film right there. Now, as far as the other 2 films are concerned, February 13th of 2026 and November 6th of 2026, a lot of people are speculating Shang Chi 2 and Doctor Strange 3. And these make a lot of sense, especially story-wise and continuity-wise. It's also important to note that Marvel Studios or Disney would not list Spider-Man as one of their untitled Marvel movie dates. That's typically always a part of Sony. So Spider-Man 4 is going to be thrown in here somewhere. Mostly believed to be coming out before Avengers Doomsday. That's what a few insiders have said. And that, of course, also makes a lot of sense. And it's going to be really interesting to see Peter Parker see a Tony Stark variant. At least we believe Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom is going to be a Stark variant. Otherwise, why cast the same actor? It's not confirmed, but it's widely believed that he is playing a Tony Stark variant. And if that is true, it's going to be really interesting to see Peter Parker see this variant coming off from the mentor that he loved like a father to seeing this villain who is possibly the most iconic villain of all time. There is also a possibility that we could be getting a Scarlet Witch solo project, which has been rumored for a while to be happening at Marvel Studios. There is a possibility that this could be the second to last film, the one that takes place right after Avengers Secret Wars, or it could be the film right before Avengers Secret Wars, because Doctor Strange 3 could be in that film before Avengers Secret Wars, or it could be in the film that is right after Secret Wars as well, if Marvel is not doing an Avengers versus X-Men story, which they might not be. We've heard it rumored for a long time now, and honestly it makes sense because it does seem like the Earth 616 universe is going to collide with the 10,005 universe, which is said to be the X-Men universe that's in the post-credit of the Marvels. And of course, we know it's the Deadpool universe as well. Clearly, Marvel Studios has plans for those to collide, but they might just fulfill those in Secret Wars. So that date after Avengers Secret Wars doesn't necessarily have to be an Avengers vs. X-Men film, but it does make sense. But I think a lot of fans really want Doctor Strange 3 and a Scarlet Witch solo movie. But we also do know that Shang Chi is officially coming. We are getting a Shang Chi 2. So it looks like there isn't technically enough room for all of these films. So one would have to go, either Shang Chi 2, Doctor Strange 3, the Scarlet Witch solo project, or Avengers vs. X-Men. And of course, again, that is us assuming that the very final date, November 5th, is going to be Secret Wars Part 2. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which movies would you like to see? If you had to sacrifice one, which one would you be okay with not seeing? And if you have any different ideas of your own, please be sure to leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on the MCU. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.